Welcome to the Opportunity Knocks podcast by Empower Purpose, hosted by me, Michelle Valenzuela Wolf. Every week, we feature different extraordinary female entrepreneurs in the business and wellness segments on just that, opportunities. These segments deep dive into how these courageous women transition into their purpose. We want to give you permission to discover, pursue, and achieve your goals. We learn and reaffirm that life is never linear. It's how we as women choose to take, make, create, and evaluate opportunities. Remember, it's all gonna be okay. Thank you for your support and make sure to subscribe. Hi, Nancy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I just love to see that beautiful collage behind you of all those amazing paintings.
Yeah, they are amazing, aren't they? And they are my daughters. You can own one of these.
Are you serious? So all of those are your daughters?
They are.
Talk about talented, I'll say.
She is. She's a painter. She's
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I guess that actually all these amazing talents of curation, which is actually one of your beautiful qualities, right? Just kind of fall in line with the family, huh?
It does. It does. We are, apples don't fall far from their trees, right? As they say.
That's true. I mean, I think when I was younger, I used to think that nurture was so much more important than nature. But I think now I realize I'm definitely convinced after a third child that it's pretty much we have pretty little control over it.
I don't you love that though?
I actually do. I actually do. I was sitting last night at dinner. Somebody was talking about something to do with their child, and I said, we have to acknowledge that they did come from us.
Well said. Well said. I'm in full agreement. They did. And we labored.
We did literally labored. And you have many labors of loves. And what I love about you is your ability to curate special experiences. And whether that be food or entertaining, Nancy Hopkins, I have to tell you, I meet a lot of very talented people, but when I watched you at the International Association of Culinary Professionals Awards, that you basically are the president of, I was in awe of how you basically, it's not flitted, you basically it was like taking strides, like watching a president's wife stride through the showroom of Wolf, right? It was for, or was it Sub-Zero? Oh, it's the same company right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was beautiful to watch.
Well, you are kind. I think that's when I'm my happiest, like when I feel like I'm curating or producing something. And I do, I love it. And I love people. I do. And I think that was a beautiful combination. And you flit it right in, and heaven knows we need it, your hands. Exactly. You used to be in event work, and we need it. We made that go over there.
It's so amazing. It's so awesome. Can I tell you though, it's so great. It was so great to have that experience because it reminds me of when I was in the corporate world, right? We have a similar experience in the way that when you have worked in large teams and when you are actually doing large events, there's not a question. It's all hands on deck and you understand one another. Like I could see where your need was. And I was thinking, I mean, my role here is just as a spectator and to experience technically, right? But I was invited by Katie Shin, who we are both friends of.
Right.
And I was really there in New York for Women's Entrepreneurship Day. I wasn't planning on attending this amazing awards presentation for all these really accomplished chefs.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal, and something that you and I spoke about. I mean, we were giving out the top awards in culinary, from cookbooks to podcasts to TV. I mean, it's a big deal with hundreds of judges and hours, and yet it culminates into this awards program, which is a big deal, but doesn't have thousands of hands. And so I think back to our corporate lives, you and I met the night before, but it's that instant knowledge and awareness of she's on my team, she can do this, and I'm going to trust her. And I think you get that from working on large corporate teams.
Totally. And it's years of conditioning. Uh, and I
Oh,
think we both have similar values as far as understanding that teamwork is important, but understanding that there's no question when someone's in need that we're there to help one another.
mhm, mhm. And that's something I love. And but also like-mindedness. And I think one of the things now that I'm not in corporate, nor you,
Mhm.
is that we find our people.
I
And
totally agree.
yes, and sometimes I instantly find my people, and I love that. I'm
Mhm.
so excited by that, that the universe brought me this introduction, this person, and now this person's my people, you
Yeah,
know, and even how we met, it was all hands on deck, and yet I knew I could look at you and you were reading, channeling, go fix
yeah.
that.
I definitely was reading the room of where the needs were because there were so many. I almost become my ADD, my undiagnosed ADHD turns into hyper focusedness of like what needs to be done because we're on a time crunch.
Right. It's so true, and I think we've all gotten to a place where there are no egos.
Oh yeah.
It's jump in and do it and know that you're trusted and you'll do your part. And we had a beautiful awards presentation, so many thank you notes after that. And I think truly, thank you. It came down to needing your hands. And, we mentioned Katie, but there were about four other people that jumped in. And whether I was flitting or flying or
I think you were striding. I'm going to call it striding. I was going to call it strutting, but that doesn't sound appropriate.
we don't want to strut. We like to stride or sashay, as some people.
Sachet, sachet. That's a nice word. I like that.
Yes, yes.
Well, before we get too far into this, because we clearly are so connected, we could just like jump right in. I mean, I want people to understand that Nancy has, I think, over 25 years of culinary experience, right? It's not just culinary, it's an entertaining experience too.
Right.
And after leaving the corporate world, she launched her own company called Eat with Nancy Productions. And that's not just events that she hosts, she's a speaker, she does a ton of different things. She also evaluates people's cookbooks, as you know, and we've just recently talked about how she is the president of the what is the acronym? IACP.
Good job.
Okay.
International Association of Culinary Professionals. And it's an organization that's just near and dear to my heart. I've been a member forever, ever and ever, and that shifted into this role. And it's something wonderful that merges all that I do as well, but certainly not a full-time position or.
Although sometimes it may feel that way, even though, I mean, there's a lot of time and energy investment into that. And I know that everything that you do, like we talked about, is highly curated. But that really came from your extensive background in the corporate world, where you had this amazing career actually at Better Homes and Gardens, right?
Right,
But
right.
didn't you work at other magazines as well?
No, it was all Better Homes. And
Wow.
yeah, prior to that, I had a turn in PR at a massive agency, Edelman, which was also huge. And I think something that you and I spoke about is I really love giant. Better Homes and Gardens, of course, millions and millions and millions of followers, and same
40
with
million, right? Like 40
yeah,
million liters. I'm sure it's crazy.
34.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and but I love that it's not only massive budgets, but just everything's bigger in
Hmm.
a major corporation. And I think especially I felt like I worked with the best of everything for all of those years. The best photographers, stylists, food stylists, writers, content developers, the best. And I think when you're in a role like that, everyone has gotten to their dream job. And
Hmm.
so you're working with so many people who are doing their dream job, including myself. And I think we're so so lucky that we've gotten to do our dream jobs and learn from them and take away all of that. And I'm grateful I did the content for all of the magazine, but also it was content, for the website.
Yeah.
So
What would you say would be your, like, if you were to list like three of the top Better Homes and Gardens publications, like from your experience, like when you're like, oh my God, back on my heartstrings, this one meant the most to me, or
yeah,
these three?
I think it comes
So
down to
many. I mean, you work with big, big names.
big names, but I think there are three features that were really important to me. And again, that goes, a feature is on the print, on the page, but that's also on the website. That's also, I directed all the photo shoots. And so there's so many layers to what you see on the final page, but without a doubt, my standouts. And that's also how I knew, wow, I don't think I'll top this. It might be okay to go to the next Nancy, if you will. But working with Michelle Obama was incredible for
And
me. And being in the White House kitchen and on the lawn, that was incredible at a time when her gardens were making so much of a difference. And we photographed a major lunch for children on the lawn of the White House. And just, I have to tell you, going through producing something with the White House on the lawn, those are lessons I'll never forget. And giggle sessions, which we can talk about at another time. Like, one of my team members lost her cell phone in the restroom, and guess what? You can't just go back in the White House and get it. And that makes me giggle every time. But also working with Jacques Pepin, loved that, just loved it. And yet there are other people, like two of my favorite shoots. I love country music. Who knew? And I did a story with Little Big Town that,
Ooh,
that
that's
was
so cool.
so cool. And also Trisha Yearwood. And that was so cool. And she sang during the photo shoot. Of course she did, right? It's just what she does.
Yes.
Um, but these are pinch me moments, and big teams too. It goes back to what we
What I
started
was
with.
talking about.
Yeah, when you're working on features like that, you're on a team of like 12 people, and I would direct them, but it's knowing that you have trust, and that each of you are bringing your A game,
Mhm.
and that you've got each other's back. And I think as I've stepped away from that, here's what I've learned: many things, but wow, have you ever worked with people who don't bring their A game? Ooh, so upsetting.
Well, I think that that's what's really interesting these days is that I would find, at least I find, that more people don't bring their A game than they do bring their A game.
I know. And I'm here with you.
Yes.
And I think for me, that makes me push harder and dig harder and maybe make people think I'm crazy. But I want to pull out the best game. And I think also it's a result of the pandemic. People are so concerned about budget. And
Mhm.
I think we should all respect a budget, but I don't think we need to do things with poor quality and blame a budget,
Exactly.
so
Hmm.
to speak. And I think these are things that, I don't know, I think are hard to handle, and that I fight for in projects that I work for. And that's why I named it, all of it, Eat with Nancy, because I feel like when you eat with Nancy, you're not only getting Nancy and her experience, but you're also getting something that someone else won't bring, you know,
Exactly.
and that might be a level of quality, or a level of creativity, or a
Like a
level of,
curated experience, like
it
truly,
is.
like immersing yourself. The thing is that given that, to your point, it's like wisdom, because um we were talking about how do you invest in women over 50, and the thing is that women over 50 have a level of wisdom and experience, like your ability to curate on a level because of what you working with Michelle Obama and some of these very high level people, their experiences that no one else has had. So your desire to replicate that beauty for others to give it as a gift is amazing.
It is. And I think also we took the hit. I'm so, and thank you for mentioning that, because I am such a believer in women over 50. I want to uplift women, help them, give them jobs, everything, because I feel like it's so easy to forget what we're bringing. We took the hit. We learned, you know, in our earlier years,
Mhm.
the hard lessons. And I think we shortcut that. We
Exactly.
shortcut all of that because we had a flop shoot or a flop project or a flop budget or all of the above.
And I love
And
the fact that you're actually calling it a flop because you're giving permission to, there are flops, there are failures, there are things that don't go right. And then it's about how we basically fix it or regenerate, right?
we have flops and we learn from them, and after a flop everything's better. But let's talk about a food photo. I'll never forget one of my editors years and years ago, um one of my first solo big productions, and the editor had the film, and and it was film, by the way.
Mhm.
And she said, oh, she turned around and she said, oh, Nancy, I believe you have pushed this poor, trusting reader about as far as you possibly can, with these photos.
And you're
I
like,
just,
what?
I'm like, what? This is gorgeous. And she's like, no, it's not. You have to redo this, and that's a flop, right? And, walking in innocently thinking it's the most beautiful thing since sliced bread, and having someone take you down in a conference room. And I'm sure you and I have been taken down in conference rooms a number of times.
Exactly.
I think that's why we want to uplift our 50 plus women, because we're doing great things after 50.
Hmm. We are. And I think that that's the thing is that some people discount what women over 50 have to bring to the table beyond their wisdom. There's
Mm.
still a very, very detailed level of work ethic and also amazing ingenuity. Like, tell me about some of the things that you plan on doing, because you plan on doing all these amazing things in your, I'm going to call it a manner.
It is a bit of a manner. And one of the things I think I'm learning a lot, and it's so fun to learn, is okay, how do I unite like my website, Eat with Nancy, and activities at the manor? And the manor is basically a very magical home that we purchased in Virginia, where I grew up. And just so honored to have it, and to be sort of the next generation for keeping this home built in 1930 going. And it's a log kind of lodge like home. Either way, bringing events to it that give it notoriety but also keep it fresh and young. And I think I'm learning a whole lot about things like that. One of the things you said to me in our talk is, how do you make things curated and maybe toward perfect without going nuts,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's that's a big learning curve for me, because clearly the budgets are a little bit different, and
Yes, very
I'm
different.
building something from scratch and trying to decide what that is and wanting it to be perfect, but it's not on the lawn of the White House, for
Mhm.
example.
But maybe
And
that's where like having shared vision, kind of like going back to the original part of our conversation, right? Having shared vision where those who you're collaborating with or bringing together have that level of integrity to carry out what you're seeing.
it's trust, right?
Yes.
It's trust, and pulling in the people that have your back and don't want to see you fail.
Mhm.
Someone said this to me, and I can't even. He was a former president of ICP, an incredible man, and we had a conversation just yesterday. And he said something, just listening to me as I dialogue, and he said, "Nancy, let it all go. Let all the worry you have go, and pull in your people.
So true.
Find find your familia." And he said something, and I'm gonna say it, and it's gonna come out wrong, but he framed it up well. So just give me a chance. He said, think of it like your people. It's kind of like the mafia you need to get this done.
Hmm.
And he's like, I'm not telling you to go be a mafia,
No,
but
no.
find the people that you need to get this done.
Yes.
And I listened to it and I thought, what wise words. And I thought about what is sometimes in my new work missing. And I'll be honest with you, I think sometimes we're out there, and tell me, I'm sure a lot of people listening do this. We're trying to find on any one team the young person, three diverse people,
Hmm.
three beginners, three experienced, and a ratio of men to women. And
God.
we're trying to build these perfect teams when we could call someone we worked with for 10 years and shortcut that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that's where we have to kind of get real and go, okay, wait, how do I build my familia? How do I build my family and do this project, which is mine? I own. And it doesn't have to, it can pull on the people you knew from another time.
I totally agree with you. If I
And
didn't pull from my community or my familia, I mean, I too, similar to you, when I left the corporate world, first of all, I had nobody in the personal growth space. Like, there was not my network, and human resources is definitely not, or they don't even call them that anymore, right? But like, he would, head of people was not people that I necessarily surrounded myself with. Community, my external community from many different constituents through the years were what basically helped me cultivate and bring things to the next level. But you're right, we have to find our people.
we have to. And I think, especially when we're trying new endeavors, when we're transitioning to something new. And let me tell you, here's my example. I interviewed three young women to help with social media for this.
Mhm.
And, um, you know, let's be honest, I just wasn't impressed. And
Yep.
yet they were sitting there, and they were young and had schooling in PR slash knew a lot about social media, but they weren't interested at all in what it is that I do in food and lifestyle, and curating something that's a meaningful and maybe slash beautiful experience.
Hmm.
And we weren't connecting. And yet the person who helped me solve that problem, I I turned to my sister.
Mm.
And I think for whatever reason, and trying to build something new, I had avoided going to my sister.
Mm.
And yet she's an incredible banker, money manager, business person, lots of smarts. And I think we come out of that corporate shell trying to be the whatever it is now called the human resources of everything. And we're trying to build teams with complete strangers just so that we're meeting all these criterias that we've placed on ourselves,
Absolutely.
right? And when you stop a minute and go, wait, I'm building this for Nancy. This is my business.
I want.
And exactly. And maybe I need to trust the people that I know. And it's okay to work with on this particular project, my sister.
Hmm.
And those are hard lessons, I think. And I think a lot of women, especially, have been in that position where you don't have to completely rebuild
The wheel,
you
the
the
car.
wheel.
Yes.
And if you have a community, especially when you're launching something, and we hear this on TV all the time, right? Someone profiling a company and they're doing this and that. And they start it, by the way, with their mother or sister or, and it's okay for them. But I think when we're thinking about our own, we're interviewing random strangers thinking they're going to care as much um, as maybe someone in your community. And that's been a really big learning curve. And when I meet people like you and I talked about at the IACP event, those people that you just look at each other and you
Seen.
you feel that connection. To me, that is a gift, I now realize, of the universe.
Oh,
And
yeah. I
when
completely agree with you.
yes, and when someone lands in my lap that way, I don't blink. I just let it in. And I'm finding that's my biggest growth space right now, after all those years in corporation, to open yourself up and let the people in who need to be there at that moment in time.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that there are these gifts all around us of people being placed before us that allow us to grow, right? And one of the things you were talking about earlier with women, it's also the word that came up for me when you were describing asking your sister for help is vulnerability and humility. And
Yes.
we as women, sometimes, especially when you've had a certain role, have trouble allowing ourselves to because we don't trust.
Oh, I think, well, and let's face it, I think we've been um maybe disciplined, you know, in our other positions because, in a massive corporation, you need to be open to, you have to let everyone in and do their job,
Mhm.
right? But I think we it's a different kind of trust. It's all trust, but trusting the people that you know really, really well and have worked with for many, many years. And
Mm.
be like you say, having humility, knowing that you can't do that, but they can, you
Mhm.
knowing where your skills begin and end, and not having to put up a front like, oh yes, I can do this. I can do this. I think we're always climbing in a corporation, but once you're in your own entrepreneur role, I think you have to be honest with what you're really good at.
I love that you're saying this because it is something that comes up time and time again with my coaching clients is that people consistently feel like they need to do it all and that they come from a like a I have to do or I should do versus what do I want to be doing? Like when you say, where do my skills start and end? We are not good at everything. There are
No.
definitely, we have to ask people for help. There's just a ton of things that I know. I was having this conversation with somebody earlier and I was like, it doesn't sound like that's resonating with you. Why are you forcing yourself to do that?
Opening yourself up to have that feeling like, oh, I don't like this part of this job. Like even having that be okay in your own head is a big victory. Like really saying to yourself, wow, I'm really not good at this. I'm going to find someone to help me with this part of this project. And I think these are gifts, whether it comes to us from reading someone's post on Instagram, or someone being very honest with us and saying, don't do that, however we accept it. it's a big victory. And I think we have to open ourselves up more and more and more to go, what is it that I really want to do with this?
Mhm.
And when you find your voice, it is amazing how things take off.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree with you.
it's funny, a friend of mine, sweet story, moved to Hungary, and I think just because of her husband's family. Anyway, I saw a big feature in a magazine today, and it was on her Hungarian life.
Well, that's so interesting.
And I think it's like, okay, when she got okay with, I'm leaving, I'm doing this over there, that's when the universe aligned. And that's now she's gotten a feature likely she would never have gotten
Exactly.
staying.
Oh yeah, if you were here, yeah. So, but what would you say is the dream for you when you look forward and you think about finding your own voice? Because I know you've been through such transition since leaving the corporate world, and beautiful things have opened up, like you said. So, even when you described to me how you attracted your home into your life, it was years of
Right.
you seeing that same home.
Yes, yes. And I think for me, realizing that these are gifts is a big part of this. Like, not looking back, realizing that this next Nancy might very well be the best
Mhm.
Nancy. How cool is that, to think that something you did for so long and loved so much prepared you for this, the
Yeah.
next Nancy? And I think for me, what sort of, to answer, what do I think that looks like now? And I think I'm in a real place of wanting to do things that nurture others, and through the things that I love, through food, through entertaining, through great wine and meaningful conversation. And I'm trying to pull all of that together here with workshops and talks. And I did a mini version of that last week. I called it porch sessions. I have a drop dead beautiful porch here, and I'm doing these Friday porch sessions with a signature cocktail and maybe beautiful food and beautiful flowers and beautiful friendships and people who want to come together and just have a social moment of sharing. And that is what I want to give back, because I feel like that pulls together everything I ever did. But one thing I realized I truly enjoyed was I made the food, I did the flowers, trusting myself, like, wow, there there wasn't a team of 12. It was
Mhm.
me, and realizing, like, oh, wait a minute, I was really good at that.
Mhm.
And that
Oh,
you
you
can
are
do,
really good at it.
right, or I am good at it, but that also I can do it my way
Totally.
now. And I didn't need the team of 20. It might have been nice to have a few of them, but the point is, what a lovely way to give back. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way. Like, I got 3 thank you notes from people who were there. And how I think when we can give an opportunity for another person to sit, enjoy, ponder, and have great conversation, that's very meaningful to me. And to
Absolutely.
do it, yeah, and to do it in a place that I love. I do love this home, and want to keep building events, and eventually wellness events, and retreats, and all of these things. So I'm maybe someone might say baby steps, but you have to start somewhere, you
Mhm.
know.
Well, I think that dreams unravel when we give them meaning, right? And so I think that's, you're in an unraveling of this beautiful new stage of giving, like taking the storytelling of just food and curation of entertaining, and actually taking the storytelling to your own unraveling of like how you would love to give this gift to women or people to experience what you love.
Mhm. Oh, I love how you said that. And I will have that vision of unraveling because it's beautiful. Because I think unraveling, when you hear the word, you think gradual, on
Mhm.
your own time, building it as you go, like this yarn, ball of yarn, unraveling. And that is so much more beautiful than the things we see in our head. Oh, I'm falling apart. This is too slow. This is, this isn't, you know, a $50,000 budget or whatever, the trappings of corporate can be, and accepting that you're doing it on your own time. A person that we both know always shares that, God's trains are on time.
Yes.
They run on time. And I think allowing and understanding that something is unraveling.
I love that. I feel that, and I think that if we look at it like a spool of thread, right? Sometimes, or yarn for that matter, like sometimes, like the spool just kind of goes really fast, and sometimes it takes a little bit to get it undone, and to see that thread go into different directions. So,
I Yeah, yeah. And I think for me, it goes back to what you said. I'm trusting that
mhm.
I'm where I need to be right now. And I think trust is a really a big piece of that. I like to think about that. Don't I think as women, we spend so much time second guessing or maybe being green-eyed, jealous, or doubtful. I think we have to, especially when we're over 50. I think that we have to trust that we're where we need to be at this time. And we're using all of the momentum that we've built from our, you know, former career or our former position or our former place that we lived, and that we're pulling it all together and into this beautiful thing, and trust it. Because I think we're very guilty of doubting ourselves. So these are all new
What would
discoveries.
you say to a woman that does have doubt? Like, how do you recommend for them to move forward?
I think it's I- doubt is normal, right? And we understand that, but I think we have to have words in front of us like believe. We have to trust and believe that we're in the right place and open ourselves up. When we feel that tinge of fear, we have to open ourselves up and speak to ourselves that way, that no, I'm where I need to be at this time, and go one step further and trust that we're where we need to be at this time, and stay open. And it's easy to get distracted, but simple things help with that. You talk about your exercise, but I find a walk,
Yes.
for me it's cooking or
Yes.
planting something. I think find your little device that, you know, helps you change your sort of negative mindset, and do your best to stay open. And here's one other tip I follow is, when I look back at big pivot points in my life, whether job or relationship, or I can see that everything that I struggled with, couldn't make the decision, couldn't decide, was worried about, fearful about, those were all bad decisions. And in my life, the decisions I made quickly at a moment's notice, without thinking, without fear, those were the good ones.
Mm. Do you think that's because you were in alignment?
Alignment's a newer term for me as far as thinking about myself.
Yep.
Um, Perhaps I was. but I know in my life things that I struggle with aren't right for me. They
Mhm.
just aren't right for me at that time. The things I've been most happy with are, you know, the invitation, I accept it.
Mm, I like it.
Those are the things I can look back. The job I didn't worry about taking, the move I didn't worry about making, the things I did kind of, some people might say you're a little flip, Nancy. That's okay. I am.
Mhm.
And I tend to make a quick judgment when it's right. And if I can't make my mind up, I think about some of the negative things in my life. They are things I labored over and
Don't you
couldn't
also
decide.
think what you're really saying is like you're tapping into your like deep knowing, your intuition, like your gut. Like
Yeah.
we know when something is right or not, is I think what you're saying. Listen.
I think so. I remember when I went through my divorce, I had a great hours of counseling, and she said, "Be still. You know the answer. You just have to be still, and you have to listen." And I remember she said to me, "You have one of the strongest guts I've ever worked with.
Mm,
Trust it, trust it." And I learned a lot from that. I did end up divorced, and that that was the right thing. But I think
led you to so many other gifts.
yes, trust your gut. And
I like
uh yeah, I leap fast. And same with friendships. I know I might judge quickly, and I know instantly the
when's your
people.
birthday?
March 25th.
Oh, are you a Aries? You're an Aries.
Yes.
That's why. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, okay, I there's so many things I want to talk to you about more, but I feel like we know that we only have limited time on the podcast. But I do have one very important question for you, and that is, what are your top five core values?
Hmm. Loyalty. I am extremely loyal. When you have me, you can keep me. Honesty. Really like for people to be honest with me, and I like to be honest. Creative.
Hmm. Definitely.
Very core value for me. So loyalty, honesty, creative. Really like healthy in the way of mind, soul. That's four. And I adore ambition.
I think so.
Yeah, I love it. I don't want grass growing under my, I want to be ambitious to the day I'm, leaving this earth. I still will be wanting to do something.
Well,
Uh,
and I like that you're calling it ambition because some people may only put it underneath success. And ambition is just a different, it's a word that actually people don't use very often anymore. I'm going to bring that word back.
mhm.
I like that word, ambition.
Let's bring it back. I I really think that you always have to want to do something better in your life at any age. You have to aspire. I mean, it's kind of like aspiration, but I think it's different. When you're ambitious, you're going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And yeah,
Ambition
it's
is
very
different
important.
than tenacious too. And I find that what you're describing is just like having the true desire to put the best foot forward and best product, right? And isn't that what we were talking about earlier before the calls, that we can't find ambitious people as much anymore?
No, I think it's a word when we see it. We see it, like every once in a while you'll meet that go-getter, that ambitious person, and a younger person. I love to mentor. It's one of my favorite things, and someone will really work to know you, to get to know you, to get to work with you, and I just love that fire. It's tenacity, right?
I
It's
think
having
when
a
it is,
fire.
we see it in some people, like it's what we, when we were in the corporate world, we would look around and see so many ambitious people. It's the striving.
Yes. And that's one thing about the corporate world. There's always that. I mean, we're not in it now and it's post-pandemic and people are just sorting where to work. I get that. You know, do you go in? Do you stay home? You know,
Do I
it's a
want a job? Do I not? Half of them.
right. All of the
Yeah.
things that are honest feelings, I'm certain. Um, but I think you and I know that when you look at a person and you're like, they've got it.
Yes. It's exactly what, going full circle. It's exactly what we saw in one another. Not only actually at when we went to the IACP awards, but also it was the night before when we met at dinner.
Right.
There was a
Right.
mutual understanding.
Yes, instant, you know, for mine, like, oh wow, she's fiery. I love that. And it's it's a trait and I'm never going to apologize for it. I want those people in my life. And those people are the people who serve me the best. They make suggestions, they critique me. They're like, "Are you sure about that, Nancy?" You know, a friend of mine describes me. She's like, "You're constantly spinning, Nancy. You're always spinning. You're this top." And someone started you. And I found the people that I love the most in my life are the people who put their hands on my shoulders and they stop the spin.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
we also need that.
we need that.
We need
And, you know, a fiery soul who's ambitious in their own way can look at you and go, whoa, girl,
mm-hmm.
stop.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Such a
I
great,
love
such a great way of looking at it, and such a great way, going back to, you said, find your people, find your familia. Part of your familia is those people that can set those, see that in you, but call it out in a kind way.
and help you move to your next level. And, you know, that can be someone that you met 10 minutes ago and someone you've known, you know, 10 years.
Exactly. But you have that connection, common connection.
Exactly. And it's exciting when you kind of open yourself to that. I think things change.
Mm-hmm. Well, the world opens up to you. Like when you're talking about the universe, like suddenly things open because you're clear on what you want to attract too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank
And
you for being part of my vibrational community.
we have to get your whole community out there on that gorgeous
Oh,
lawn.
we're going to be doing it, girl. I am going to be coming out. I'm going to be, I am going to experience it, and I want my community to experience it because, I mean, I have to say, the pictures alone seem just incredible, incredible, and you're incredible. Like anything you put together is a gift. It truly is.
You are kind, and I want you to bring all your friends and we'll do a Eat with Nancy giant.
I can't wait. I can't wait. It's coming. As soon as we get the contractor to do the cabinets. Well,
Maybe,
thank you so
one
much.
of the, yeah, one of the listeners will go, "Oh, Virginia, I know the perfect person."
I'm sure they will, by the way. You never put anything past people. Anyways, well, I want to thank you for your time, and please let people know where they could reach you and follow you on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you want them to find you. And I just really want you to know that I see you, and I know you'll just continue to do amazing things and bring amazing people together.
You are so kind, and your mouth to the great one's ears for this transition. And please follow along at Eat with Nancy. I'm happy to see all of your friends there.
Well, thank you. We'll talk.
Okay. See you later.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Opportunity Knocks podcast by Empower Purpose and me, Michelle Valenzuela-Wolf. If opportunity is knocking at your door, feel free to take inspiration from the journeys of our diverse female entrepreneurs. Their tips and transparency are all available on the Opportunity Knocks podcast. Thank you for your support and subscribe now.